Hi guys, welcome back to episode 6 of Simple Sips. This week we have a special treat for you with special guest, winemaker and vineyard owner, Paul Hobbs. Now Paul Hobbs is going to be showing us 4 of his wines, 2 of which are from California, and then we'll be going down to South America, to Argentina, where he has his Felino house. Please enjoy these wines, and Paul will be giving us a special treat today. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Paul Hobbs, and tonight I'd like to share with you some thoughts behind Crossbarn. Crossbarn is named after one of the barns on our family farm in upstate New York, where I spent my childhood years, 17 years on a fruit farm, 18 years, something of that nature. And the Crossbarn connected the big barn to the horse barn and formed a kind of a center of our childhood activities when we weren't working or doing other chores of that nature. And it just seemed to be apropos for this particular kind of wine, which is refreshing, fun, brings people together, conviviality, this sort of thing. The wines have also great integrity and purity, and it's like, I thought, well, this Crossbarn represents all the kinds of things we want to say about the wine and harkens back to family values, things of that nature that were so important in my formative years. I also want to now take just a segue and talk about the wines themselves. The first wine being our Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir. And of course, Sonoma Coast is a relatively cold appellation, influenced greatly by the Pacific Ocean Humboldt Current. So fog is a key feature, and old eroded hills or mountains. The coastal mountains of California are kind of ancient in terms of geological time, formed by the collision of both the North American with the Pacific plates. And so the soils are a function, and as are the mountains, of the colliding of these two tectonic plates. They're very well drained soils, and the lead vineyards are in the northern part of the Sonoma Coast appellation, particularly in this area known as Annapolis. And again, it's treed, it's heavily wooded with large redwoods and fir trees. The land was developed many years ago. This is one of the sites that would play a large role in the making of the Crossbarn Pinot Noir. The winemaking is rather straightforward. It's kind of based on old Burgundian principles with a very pure idea that quality fruit makes good wine. And so we try to keep it simple in that sense. And so that's kind of, in other words, small open top fermenters, hand punched, everything is hand picked as well. And so there's really an artisanal aspect to this. Now the key feature that is different is the oak aging. Here, it's almost entirely used oak, so there's less oak influence in the wine. So the oak is used to mature the wine, less than to flavor it. Segueing over to Napa in Cabernet country, U.S. Cabernet country, we operate from all the way from the very northern part in the Calistoga region or Calistoga sub-appellation to the furthest southern region, and that would be the newest sub-AVA, Coombsville. There actually is one area further south, I should say, and that's Carneros, but the Coombsville area is warm enough and tucked away and protected. It's basically in the southern rim or the interior of the southern rim of a sunken volcano, or otherwise known as a caldera. So these are very different types of soils from the ones I just described from Sonoma Coast. These are volcanic rock. And so the wines tend to have great color, but there's a blend. And so we're blending from some vineyards, maybe in Yountville, all the way up to Calistoga, and we're blending Cabernets mostly from the valley floor, but this one particular area in Coombsville tends to give more mountain tannin characteristics, more robust characteristics. A lot of blackberry in this particular wine. Again, all élevage in small French oak barrels, principally with a handful, a smattering of American oak. But the oak is always something here in Crossbarn that we want to have a very much in the background interaction with the wine. So again, it's for maturation, clarification, things of that nature, but it's a supporting role in the background. And we look for great drinkability. You might even say there's like a brightness and an energy. And in the Cabernet, as well as the Pinot, they can even, you'll find mineral-like characteristics. Cabernet, I find slate and also some graphite notes. In the Pinot Noir, more sea salt, red clays, things of that nature. So that's our offering tonight. I hope you enjoy these two wines, and also when you have a chance to try the Chardonnay from the Sonoma Coast as well. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Paul Hobbs, and I'm here today to talk to you about our wines from Mendoza, Argentina. I think I'll start first by talking about my first foray into Argentina, which was way back in 1988. In March of '88, I made a trip to explore South America, and particularly Chile, but ended up, curiously, my host, I had made the mistake of inviting an Argentine into Chile, and my Chilean host was furious. My Argentine host, Jorge Catena. So finally, we both got thrown out of Chile and drove over the Andes with Jorge, who was partially blind, by the way. And so on the caracoles, or the switchbacks, he seemed to know to make the turn when he could hear the wheels leaving the pavement and hitting the rocks on the curves. It was one of the hair-raising experiences of my life, but that's how I got to Mendoza over the Andes. And so in the very beginning, this again is March of '88, I met Nicholas Catena, began starting working in Argentina, and then later on decided it was time to launch my own winery. And so after doing extensive work building the Catena program, including Alamos, the first Malbecs that I think were commercially successful worldwide. It just seemed like after 8-9 years of that kind of work, it was time to go off and do my own thing. So I found partners, young partners, as a matter of fact, and the way that came about was I asked my wife if she could help me locate partners. And so on a bus ride from Mendoza to San Rafael, where her hometown, she got up in front of the bus and said, "Hey, everybody, pay attention. My husband is looking for partners to start a new winery." And lo and behold, she got some takers. So I said, "I think we know somebody," and that's how I met Luis Barro and Andrea Marchiori. At any rate, that was the beginning of Viña Cobos, and that started in 1998. And our goal was pretty simple. We had very little money. We pooled their nest egg, which amounted to about $35,000. And I wanted to set it up similar to an Opus One business model. So it was a straight 50-50 joint venture. So I matched their 35, and with $70,000, we began Viña Cobos. The first year was a total disaster because of the weather. In March, during our harvest season, it rained nearly every day. We had a El Nino, which can be rather provocative. So we lost pretty much our entire seed money to start the company. But in 1999, the weather and the vintage improved, and so we persevered, put things back together again. I funded the start this time, and they stayed with me. And we made the first wines in a garage at a winery called La Amalia in Mendoza. And that's how we got our start, basically, with the idea that we were just simply going to do a study of Malbecs around the Upper Rio Mendoza River Zone. Well, since then, lots has happened. Luis and Andrea are no longer my partners. They were up until about 4 years ago. We built a winery in 2006, and we've built several brands. Our top brand, of course, is called Cobos. Bramare, which is one of our, we have vineyard designates and appellation wines in that series. And then Cocodrilo, well, Cocodrilo, I'm sure you all understand, is crocodile in Spanish. And our entry level, which is also, by the way, was not part of our original business plan, is Felino. The wines I have here are Malbec and a Cabernet Sauvignon. We also make a Chardonnay, and we're working on a Pinot Noir as well from the Patagonia region. But Felino really came initially as an afterthought, and it was because of difficult growing conditions that we really couldn't make a wine at the Cobos level. But we could make a wine that was really fresh and bright and full of energy and gave the kind of satisfaction. We wanted to be true to type, so that we had seen that a lot of people in Mendoza were blending Malbec with other varieties, and we wanted to really showcase what is Malbec from either the two main districts, the traditional region of Luján de Cuyo, of growing high quality Malbec, versus the new and upcoming higher elevation regions of the Valle de Uco. So that was one direction that we took with this wine. And then with Cabernet, of course, we focused on those two areas as well because of the climate. The high Andean dry semi-desert climate only gets 8 inches of rainfall a year, is a perfect idyllic growing season for both of these varieties. One of the things I love about the region is that we irrigate. Irrigation is required because of the low level of rainfall. It does rain during the growing season, so there is no grape growing without irrigation. We have converted most of our vineyards to drip irrigation, but the water purity is basically all captured snow melt from the Andes. And then this region just has some of the lowest smog. In fact, it really is virtually purest air you can possibly breathe at this high elevation. And very little industry. It's almost all agricultural, the region. So, grapes are a terrific at expressing sight. And it seems to me logical that if the area is pristine and untouched in a way that Mendoza is, the energies are going to show that raw and elegance and very healthy and natural form of wines. These two wines are both élevaged in barrels. But the thing is, there's no or very little new oak used. So the focus here is on the fruit itself. And that's the Felino line. Felino, of course, is a name that we chose because it just was sort of like the Incas had done something, and you'll see very lightly in the background behind the name, showed the confidence of a cat family, basically the puma, and which inhabits the region to this day. And we just thought it had the confidence and the svelte-like, cat-like qualities that just are silky and drink so smooth and kind of, well, sorry to say this, but purrs like a cat. So forgive me. But that was the style that we were after. We just thought that this was, particularly the Malbec, would have this very supple, sweet tannin and juicy fruit that goes and pairs so well with so many different types of foods. So that is really the philosophy. It's an uncomplicated wine. And again, the whole concept is easy drinking. On the other hand, if you're wanting to age the wine, it's built for that too. But it's made to be enjoyed every day. You can use it as a picnic wine in your barbecue, that kind of thing. And it just crosses checks off all the dots when it comes to food pairings and things of that nature. So yeah, I hope that you can come and visit us one day in Mendoza, and I think you'll be as excited as I am why I'm there. I've been there now for basically a little over 30 years. So and we continue. As soon as COVID is behind us, I'm back there. Talk to you soon. Bye.